today to talk to you about what we've been doing with the Alabama State School Board in trying to get them to remove Common Core man. Now, I have one word that will tell you why people get upset about Common Core. That one word is children. And y'all know there's nothing that upsets any of us more than to know that either your child or someone else's child is being hurt. And this has been going on for over 10 years. So it has gotten to a point of frustration with us. Our Republican Party has voted, I don't know how many times, to oppose Common Core. And I'm going to be real blunt with you. I find no excuse for any Republican not voting to get rid of Common Core. Right now, as Jim said, we have 4 of the 5 votes that are needed. Our group has voted for a resolution, so I want to kind of give you a timeline. After that resolution, Terry Latham, and I want to give her a lot of credit, has stepped up and really helped us out. She contacted the governor's office on our behalf, and Terry Latham, Kathy Miller, who's going to talk in a few minutes, a principal from Autauga County, myself, Nick Moore, who's the governor's school education policy person. People have titles, I don't remember. And there was someone else from the governor's office. We had a Zoom meeting with them, and afterwards, all they could say was, wow, y'all did a great job presenting that. Data doesn't lie. They had no comeback to us for the case that we were building to get rid of Common Core man. On March 9th, Terry Latham met with Joe Bonner again. And she has set up a meeting between Kathy Miller, myself, Terry will be there, and we're meeting with Eric Mackey, the state superintendent, and Nick Moore. And what I want to ask you is, we need your help. We have what we've been told 4 votes. Jackie Ziegler, Stephanie Bell, Belinda McRae, and Wayne Reynolds. There are 2 Republicans in question, Cynthia McCarty and Tracy West, and the 2 Democrats, Yvette Richardson, who is my school board member, and Tanya Chestnut. We need you to call them. We need you to email them. We need you to talk to them. And you know how emotional the topic of Common Core can be for all of us. I was a principal when it came down the pipeline. And some people don't realize that those standards shifted so drastically that there was, for example, a group of 3rd graders, a 4th grade standard moved from 4th grade to 3rd grade. And when those 3rd graders moved to 4th grade, guess what happened? Nobody went back and taught it to them. Now, I did it at my school. But those kids are out of high school now. They're in college, some of them. And this Common Core has created gaps in learning that I don't know how we're going to make up for it. But it needs to go. The paper that I put on your table, I know most of you already have your state school board information, but I'm going to let Kathy talk now. And what we want to try to do today is give you some additional
rural areas, great needs. And so I started learning that my best friend was a pillow on the floor. And I learned that my Heavenly Father would give me everything that I needed in order to go into that classroom and teach what those children needed. Not so much what was given to me as this is a standard, or this is this, or this was this, but what these children needed, okay? Yes, I went by the standards. Yes, I did my lesson plans and those kinds of things. But the most important thing was that when I put my head on my pillow at night, was that I could look up to my Heavenly Father and say, did I do okay? Did I meet those needs? And you know what? There were several times when I'd have to crawl out of bed, get back into a book and say, you know what? There's that child over there, and I just don't know why he's not getting it. Let me find out a way that he's going to get it. They didn't teach me that in college, okay? They gave you a basal and they said, okay, stick that to your hip and go out there and teach. But what they don't teach you in those colleges and everything like that is once you get in the classroom, this child is not getting it. And you can look in their eyes and you can tell they're not getting it. And so what happens is that when you get into the classroom today, it's that this has to be done, and this has to be done, and this has to be done. And teachers, with the burdens that they have for the children, the biggest burden that you could hear almost every good teacher say is, I can't reach the children anymore because I'm supposed to do all of these steps. So let's get into Common Core, and let's just kind of take a look at some of the things. I'm just going to bring you some facts today. If you look on the screen, and I know it's not real big, but the most important thing that I want you to see right now is that on the left-hand side is the 2009 course of study, and then you have the Common Core in the third column, and in that highlighted part, that's the 2019 Common Course Math Course of Study. Okay, and so if it's highlighted, it's basically the same wording as the Common Core. It hasn't changed any. And as she scrolls down, if you'll go ahead and keep scrolling down, you'll see that it's almost throughout this entire thing. You'll see the Common Core original, and then the highlighted in the 2019 goes right along with it. Okay? And as she keeps on going down, I went ahead and I'm just a researcher. I've got to find out what are we doing to the children, where does this all fit? I'm a real puzzle person. So as I was going through this, stop right there please, you'll see where it says that this was a standard, sixth grade standard? What does it say?
Sixth grade.
Yeah.
Sixth grade.
This was a sixth grade standard, okay? And it's been dropped down to the third grade, okay? This is what they don't tell you. Children are not prepared for that. So you're expecting them to understand and master, something that was being taught in the sixth grade down on a third grade level. And if they don't get it, it starts building those 2-year gaps that we hear about. Because teachers don't have time to go back and teach those gaps. Okay, right underneath it, that was a 4th grade standard, and it was dropped back down to the 3rd grade. Another 4th grade standard, and as you can see, this is all throughout the 2019 course of study. There's a 5th grade standard. A lot of it has to do with percentages and those kinds of things. Well, 3rd graders are doing good to know the number line, There's another 5th grade standard that's been dropped down to the 3rd grade level. And this is a 7th grade standard where children in the 3rd grade are going to look at the perimeter and the area of polygons. Now the perimeter is, they can get this, but when you start talking about the area of it, that's a whole different thing. One of the examples that they were supposed to figure out on a test was, if you're laying tile in the bathroom on the weekend with mom and dad, what's the area of the tiles that are going to be needed? I don't know a 3rd grader that's going to be laying tile in the bathroom, do you? These are the things that the Common Core is putting before the children. So we definitely want you to see that it has not been eradicated. In that very first handout, you'll see where KIV, our governor, has said that it's been eradicated. Well, you've just seen that it's not eradicated. It's a side-by-side for the 8th grade standards. Okay, so then, after that, the next handout you look at is where Governor Ivey said, well, let's wait a second before we do this. Let's take a look at some of the other states and see what they're doing, because we definitely need to improve our NAEP scores. And so, that was what she suggested that they do. Well, that's exactly what I did. We'll bring up. Okay, so that's what I did. I went back and I found some standards and I compared them with the Minnesota standards. Ours are much more rigorous, much more rigorous. Well, where are these standards from? This is our 2009 standards. Am I suggesting that we go back to standards? No, I'm not. What I'm saying is, why don't we take what we were 25th in the nation when we had our 2009 standards? Our students were succeeding. Why not take those standards, look at what we have today, and maybe have teachers take a look at those things and compile something that is going to help our students succeed instead of having them fail. That's what I think would be most helpful. I called someone in Minnesota and I explained to them, I said, this is what I'm looking at, and they helped me understand how they were doing things there. And basically I started talking to them about how we had done things in 2009, some of the things that we had put together, and they were most impressed with it. And he said, why did you change? I said, good question. So anyway, this is just a comparison of that. On the next slide, the next thing I want to show you are some of the examples. Excuse me. Okay, these are just some student samples. And this just shows you, on the left-hand side, this is what Common Core says that the student has to turn in order for it to be right. On the right-hand side, that's what you and I would do. Well, that's not counted as correct, okay? They have to do what's on the left-hand side, and not only that, they also have to write in a justification for that. All right, underneath that, it's kind of difficult to see, but this is when I was working with a 6th grader, okay? This is a shot from where we were working on the board, and I asked him, I said, when you're working with children, you've worked with math with children as long as I have, you never write it for them. You gain an awful lot of knowledge to have them write the numbers that you tell them. And so I said, okay, I need you to write 349 or 369 or whatever the numbers are up there. And so he did. And then he wrote 300 and then the 69 in black. That's what he was writing. Instead of 369, he was writing 30069. Well, he did all of his math and he looked at me very proudly and he said, here's my answer. And he was like, 10,000 off. Does that matter? Well, yeah, if we're going to send somebody to the moon, I think it matters. But this is what they've been taught is, this is how, and he explained it all to me. And I said, well, explain it to me. So I wrote it down as he explained it. And to him, it made perfect sense. And this is in 6th grade. We're doing addition. There's some gaps. These are just some more student samples. As you can see, the biggest shift, if you look at Common Core as to how we've done math in the past, the biggest shift is students must show so many different strategies, so many different ways. I've asked teachers, as I'm working there at the school, I've had a great time to sit down and talk to them, and I asked them, okay, so explain to me what you're seeing is the biggest burden here for the students. And the biggest burden, they said, is that they can't do 12 plus 24 equals, 36. They can't. They have to write all this stuff out. And a lot of the teachers are like, we're kind of shifting away from that and doing as much as we can. But here's the little clip to it. The students have to be able to do these different strategies because when the test comes, they have have to understand and be able to visualize what that test gives them as a possibility. Because if you don't have them understand those different strategies, they won't recognize it and they won't choose one of those answers. That's just wrong. That's just wrong. I mean, if a student says 12 plus 24 is 36, that should be it. But the test that has been, that Achieve has made, makes it so it dictates exactly what a student is supposed to be learning in order for what they will be choosing on the test, in order to succeed at that test. And then this last one was really great, where the teacher, the poor child says, you can't make 10 with 8 plus 5. Well, yeah, but no, the teacher says, yes, you can. And then you look at that reason, and you're just like, oh my goodness, I hope she doesn't have tenure.
But she does. She does. It's when they became aware and it made them.
Okay, so the last thing that we're gonna go to is that these are the people who put this together. We've got David Coleman and Jason Zimba. Both of those are the top folks right up underneath President Obama. He said, put this together for me. Well, they did. And you have to listen to these because basically the one thing teachers hate to even hear, and they'll sit there and all day long, administrators, the State Department of Education, oh no, we don't teach to the test. We can't teach to the test. That's not teaching.
Thank you.
You're right. And that's not what we're doing in the classroom anymore. We're not teaching. We're training. We're doing sit, remove, sit. Okay? That's not teaching.